Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the class. Yesterday, we were discussing the Congress system, and this Congress system was so evolved during the first three general elections period that the Congress party was not only playing the role of the ruling party, but it was also playing the role of the opposition party. And because of this emergence of Congress system, we find that though opposition parties were there in the national politics of India, but these opposition parties were not able to play any role, important role in the politics of the country. So today we will discuss this emergence of opposition parties. But before that, we will discuss about the Bharatiya Jan Sangh. Bharatiya Jan Sangh, it was a political party and it was formed in 1951, and its founder was Syama Prasad Mukherjee. You must remember all these names. Syama Prasad Mukherjee was the founder of the Bharatiya Jansangh, and actually this Bharatiya Jansangh belonged to Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh and Hindu Mahasabha. So we can say it was a political wing of Hindu Mahasabha and Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. And we see that this Bharatiya Janasangh was very different in ideology, because we are seeing Congress. Congress was a party which was presenting the coalition of different ideologies, but the ideology of Bharatiya Janasangh was very different from the ideology of other parties. The emphasis of this ideology was one country, one culture, and one nation. So these were the people, these Jansanghi were the people who talked about Akhanda Bharat. They were totally against the partition of the country, and it wanted a reunion of India and Pakistan. There should be an Akhanda Bharat, and it was of the opinion that the country can become modern, country can become developed only if it will be based on Indian culture and tradition. So this is the right wing party, because it gave emphasis on the Indian culture and tradition, and the party also against the use of English. It wanted to replace English with Hindi as the official language of India, and it also opposed the granting of concession to religious and cultural minorities. It was the opinion of Bharatiya Jansangh that the minorities, be it religious minority or cultural minorities, they should not be appeased. The policy of appeasement, they were highly against this policy of appeasement, and moreover, the party also advocated that India must develop its nuclear weapon, because and this advocacy of nuclear weapon was increased after 1964, when when China conducted its atomic test. So these are all the ideology. It was based on the ideology of Hindutva. The Hindu culture was very much important for them, and they were talking about one country, that is Akhand Bharat. Okay, and then we see that in 1950s, Jansangh remained on the margin of the electoral politics because in the first general election, it could win only 3 seats, and then in the second election that was held in 1957, it won 4 seats. So we see that its condition was very bad, and most of the support it was getting from the urban areas in Hindi speaking states, especially the states of the North India like Rajasthan, Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh. Okay, and the important leaders are Syama Prasad Mukherjee, Deen Dayal Upadhyay. You must be knowing all these names because at present the BJP is in power and it is doing every effort to give recognition to the leaders of their parent organization, and that is the reason that the Mughal Sarai Junction has been named after Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay. Then Balraj Madhok was also one of the important leaders of this Bharatiya Jansangh. So Bharatiya Janata Party came from this Bharatiya Jansangh only because when in 1977, after the end of the emergency, when elections were held in the month of March in 1977, in that election, all the opposition party unified, and in during this election only the Bharatiya Jansangh became a part of the Janata government, and by the time this Bharatiya Janata Party came into existence. So this is the symbol of Bharatiya Jansangh. And now we will have some knowledge about Deen Dayal Upadhyay. He was a full-time RSS worker, Rashtriya Swayamsevak worker, since 1942, and he was one of the founder members of the Bharatiya Jansangh with Syama Prasad Mukherjee. He was general secretary, and later he also became the president of Bharatiya Jansangh. The first president was Syama Prasad Mukherjee, and after Syama Prasad Mukherjee, he became the president of Bharatiya Jansangh, and he initiated the concept of integral humanism. It's based on the concept of uh, humanity. All the people of the world are united. So now we will see emergence of opposition parties. As we have noted above, it is not that India did not have opposition party during this period. This was the period when India was having a multi-party system. Opposition parties were there, free elections were there, everything was democratic. And when we discuss the result of election, we have already come across the names of many parties other than Congress. So many parties were there. The CPI, Communist Party of India, stood at the second position. We know this. Then Swaraj Party was there. Then Swatantra Party was there. Then Bharatiya Jansangh. So many parties were existing other than the Congress. But still, what we find that many India was having so many large number of diverse and vibrant opposition parties than many other multi-party democracies. Some of these had come into being even before the first general election of 1952. So we see that we have a very good number of political parties in our country, and one reason for this high number of political parties is the diversity of our country, and we see that some of the parties other than Congress. We are discussing about the parties. Uh, some of these parties came into existence even before the first general election of 1952. Some of these parties played an important part in the politics of country in the 60s and 70s. When we see that in the general election of 1967 and in the state election as well during the same year, the many parties other than Congress began to emerge powerful. In many states, there established the non-Congress government, and all this happened only because of this existence of these opposition parties. Though many of these opposition parties have come into existence only after independence, but still their effort, their performance were watched by the people, and they started to get opportunity of the formation of the government at the state level. They started to get the opportunity in the 1960s. So the roots of almost all the non-Congress parties of today can be traced to one or the other of the opposition parties of the 1950s. At present, whatever parties we are seeing, political parties as non-Congress parties, which are non-Congress parties, all these non-Congress parties uh, originated from those parties which were the opposition parties in the 1950s. So we were talking about that socialist party. That socialist party gave birth to so many number of parties which we are seeing at present. That Janata Dal, then Samajwadi Party, and various factions, various different parties which have originated from Janata Dal, all have their root in the so, all have their root in the Socialist Party. Then the BJP is having its root in Bharatiya Jan Sangh. So the basis, the ground was getting prepared. The ground was started to be prepared for a strong opposition, and this process was started in after the independence, especially 19 in the 1950-51. All these parties came into existence, though they seemed very uh, weak. They were not able to win three or four seats, more than three or four seats. Still, we find that in present day politics of India, whatever parties we are saying, all these parties are originated from those parties only. So it takes too much time to mm, establish a party. It takes too much time to make an impression upon the mind of the people. It takes a long time to present a political party before the people as an alternative to the ruling party. At that time, in 1950s, we see that the opposition party was not able to present itself as an alternative to the ruling party, and the condition of opposition parties was very weak. But that was the starting of the emergence of opposition parties. And nowadays we are seeing that after 1989, uh, no single party was able to win elections in the general election, and the condition of Congress has become very weak. And in the last general election, for the last two general elections, Congress is not able to achieve the 10% of the total membership of the Lok Sabha, which is important for being an official opposition party. So, what we find that in the earlier years, Congress was so dominant in the electoral politics of the country that it was playing both the ruling party and the opposition party also. But in 1960s and 70s, we see its condition was becoming weak, and from 1970s, from the last years of 1970s, you can say that in 1977, for the first time, non-Congress government was formed at the center, and then from 1989, Congress was not able to form a government on its own. It has to go for a coalition government. And from 2014, for the last two elections, the condition of Congress is such that it has become uh, opposition party. It has become an opposition party, but that opposition party is also not able to get that official status because of lack of 10% members of the Lok Sabha. It is not able to win the 10% members of the Lok Sabha in the elections. So this is the uh, system of party politics which has evolved in India. Okay, so we see that during this period, we are talking about the period of 1952 to 1967, the period of first three general election. So during this period, all the opposition parties were not succeeded in gaining many seats. They were only succeeded in gaining a token representation in the Lok Sabha and state assemblies. Still, their presence played a crucial role in maintaining the democratic character of the system. For a democracy, it is elections are very much important. Elections, we cannot think of democracy without elections. But in order to make elections free and fair, the there are many requirements. But one of the most important requirement is that there must be more than one party. So, in our country, though though Congress was getting three-fourth seats in the Lok Sabha in the three general elections, so we cannot say that there was absence of opposition parties. Opposition parties were there, and they were playing their role also, but they were not able to gain the so many votes. They were not able to gain so many seats that they can make their presence felt by the people. But still, their presence was very much important for maintaining the democratic character of the country. If there were no opposition parties, then what would have happened? India would have lost its democratic character. So these parties offered a sustained and often principled criticism of the policies and practices of the Congress party. These parties were at work. They were doing their work. They were uh, criticizing the policies and practices and programs of the Congress party. And because of this criticism, what happened that the ruling party was under check, and it was not in the position of misusing or abusing its power. And because of this pressure of the opposition, they the balance of power within the Congress was changed. So, by keeping democratic political alternative alive, these parties prevented the resentment with the system from turning anti-democratic. So, this is the role of the opposition parties, though they were not able to present themselves as an alternative to the ruling party, still they were playing a prominent role in maintaining the democratic character of the country. And because of the presence of these parties, the the our system was stopped from turning anti-democratic. These party also groomed the leaders who were to play a crucial role in the shaping of the country. So we can see that the role played by these parties was grooming the leaders, because whoever were the members of these parties during that period, they were learning the art of politics. They were learning the art of leadership. So these parties provided such facilities, and the leaders of that time, which were not so popular among the people, but with the passage of time, with the learning of the skills, they become so much so powerful that they started to play a crucial role in the shaping of our country. So we see that in the early years, the way of functioning of the government was such that there was a lot of mutual respect between the leaders of the Congress and those of the opposition. The relationship between the opposition leaders and the Congress leaders was very cordial, and they used to respect each other. In today's politics, we can see that many times uh, disrespect is being shown by the leaders of the opposition party to each other. But in the early years, various leaders, uh, they may be belonging to the ruling party, they may be belonging to the opposition party, but they were showing a lot of mutual respect. After when India became independent in the year 1947, after that, an interim government was formed in the country. And the first general election included opposition leaders like Dr. Ambedkar and Sama Prasad Mukherjee in the cabinet. In the interim government, which was formed under the prime ministership of Pandit Nehru, and after the first general election, when the ministry was formed, we see that many opposition leaders, the leaders who belonged to opposition, who were opposing the policies and programs and principles of democracy, who were opposing the policies and programs and principles of the Congress, like Dr. Ambedkar, Syama Prasad Mukherjee. All these leaders were given place in the cabinet. They were holding important departments in the cabinet. So, Jawaharlal Nehru often referred to his fondness for the Socialist Party and invited socialist leaders like Jayaprakash Narayan to join his government. So, this is a very unique feature of Indian political system, because the government is formed by a single party only. the party which gets a majority in the Lok Sabha. But what happened in the after the first general election, that the leaders of the opposition are being invited by the prime minister to join the cabinet. So this was a very unique feature, and this feature was there only because of the uniqueness of the Congress, because Congress was so all inclusive, it was so accommodating party, and because of this nature, this type of system evolved in our country. This kind of personal relationship with and respect for political adversaries denied after the party competition grew more intense. So, in the first general election, after the first general election, this type of relationship was existing between the leaders of the opposition party and the leaders of the ruling party. But with the passage of time, what happened that the competition, the rivalry, the adversaries uh, grew, and whatever mutual respect was existing between the leaders of various parties, that started to decline because everything evolves. So now Indian party system was also evolving. Thus, the first phase of democratic politics in our country was quite unique. It was unique, totally unique. The inclusive character of the national movement led by the Congress enabled it to attract different sections, groups, and interests, making it a broad based social and ideological coalition. As the Congress led the national movement of our country, only under the leadership of the Congress, the national movement was started, and we achieved our independence under the leadership of Congress only. And because of this legacy of national movement, Congress evolved. Congress was an all-inclusive became an all-inclusive party. Congress became an accommodative party, and people belonging to different section groups and interest were the part of the Congress, and it was not only a social but ideological coalition. This is the picture of Nehru's cabinet after the swearing in of Chakravarti Raja Gopalchari as Governor General in 1948. This is the interim government. Okay, and Raja C. Gopalchari uh, was became the Governor General in 1948 after Mountbatten. Raja Gopalchari became the Governor General, and the important members are Rafi Ahmed Kidwai, Baldev Singh, Maulana Azad, Pandit Nehru, Chakravarti Rajagopalachari, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, Mr. John Mathai, and Jagjeevan Ram. Standing from left to right, Mr. Gadgil, then Mr. Neogi, Dr. Ambedkar, Syama Prasad Mukherjee, Mr. Gopal Swami Iyengar, and Mr. Jairam Das Daulatram. So these are the members of the Nehru's cabinet after the first general election. So we can see this is the development of Indian politics. The key role of the Congress in the freedom struggle thus gave it a head start over others. Because of Congress' role in the freedom struggle, it was able to um, achieve that much support of the people, which was not possible for other parties. as the ability of the Congress to accommodate all interests and all aspirants for political power steadily declined. With the passage of time, this accommodation of all interest, accommodation of all aspirants for political power declined, and other parties started gaining significance. And the Congress dominance constitute only one phase in the politics of the country. I told you how there is decline in the Congress dominance, and today it has reached in the condition that it is not able to be the official opposition party in the Lok Sabha. So these are important about important issues about the first three general election, and now we are left with this party competition in the Bihar village, and some information regarding the Syama Prasad Mukherjee, and all these will be discussed in the next class.